Hello, everyone, and a massive welcome to this talk, which is called Exploring Money Beliefs, How They Can Affect Our Daily Lives. And I want to start off with a memory that I have from when I was 10 years old. You can see from the picture, it was a beautiful day. We were in South Africa. My mum and dad were playing golf. And for some reason that I don't know why, I decided that I would never be any better than my mum. And I've always had a memory of that day and that decision, but I never really knew what to do with it. And then when I started to do my own money work, I recognized that this was the day that I made my first big limiting money belief. So a little bit about me. I look at finance in a slightly different way to most people. I have a mix of qualifications and experience that gives me a quite a unique way of helping people who either struggle with their finances, but I also work with people who are looking to take their money up to the next level. I have been working in accounts for a very, very long time, for 25 years now. So that is where the practical side of all my work comes from: the budgeting, the cash flow, the forecasting, the savings, the cost management. But then I've also been on a healing journey, working with healing, probably for the same amount of years. I started off as a shiatsu therapist. That's all about acupressure and learning about meridians. And that eventually led me on to thinking that there must be more to money than meets the eye, which there was. And I've been doing my own healing work on the money side for about 10 years now. But I've also got a third strand, which is when my husband had a work-related breakdown in 2016. We lost one salary and we got into financial difficulty. And as a result, I had to phone all our creditors and phone the banks. And so I know what it feels like to get into financial difficulty, and also how to work through it and how it impacts you. So I think you'll see that that's what really gives me a unique approach to working with people on money. So in this talk, we're going to talk about your relationship with money. We're going to talk about the power of our beliefs. What is a limiting belief? How I define money blocks and the effect that they have on your relationship with money, how money blocks are created, why they can be so damaging, and I'm going to show you how you can start to remove your money blocks. So the first thing I want to ask you is, right now, what are your emotions around money? And I want you to just look at the slide, and there are a lot of obviously negative emotions on the slide. And I want you to just think about, are any of these resonating with you? Do you have money worry? Do you have money anxiety? Do you have fear? Alternatively, have you had some money wins? Are you feeling hopeful? Are you feeling hopeful that you can turn your situation around? Are you excited to take your money to the next level? I just want you to think about what emotions are relevant to you right now. And I'd like you to write them down on a piece of paper and score them from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest level of that emotion. So this is a great quote from an American financial guru called Suze Orman. And it says, "There isn't a part of our lives that money doesn't touch. It affects our relationships, the way we go about our everyday activities, our ability to make our dreams reality, everything." And guys, when I started to do this work on the relationship with money, and just to say, the relationship with money is how you think, how you feel, how you talk, and how you act around money. And when I started to do the work around this, people would often give me a very quizzical look, and they would be like, "I don't have a relationship with money. What is a relationship with money?" And I think to some extent, when I talk to people, they still think money is just the practical money comes into your account and money goes out. And there is a lot more to money than we think. So there's a lot of talk about money mindsets. So I just wanted to explain that money mindsets they are a set of beliefs and attitudes about money. And so that is obviously the money mindsets is part of your relationship with money. I also talk in my course about money habits, and those are more the practical elements of budgeting, cost management, savings, cash flow. So I love this slide because I'm sure all of us have been there. There have been times in my life where I didn't want to think about my financial situation. I didn't want to know. And I have spoken to people who said that they just never looked at what was amount of money that was in their bank. They didn't really want to know. And I'm sure some of you know people like that, or have had the situation where you were putting your head in the sand about your money. But we also know that some people have a constant battle with money. And one of the examples I have here is I worked with one of my accounting clients. He had got into financial difficulty with a previous business, and I think the business had gone bankrupt. But when I worked for him, he wouldn't open the post. He would just throw the letters away because he was worried that it was bad news from his bank. And as you can imagine, that caused him so much difficulty. But some people don't even realize that they have an unbalanced relationship with money. I know people who have got savings, money in the bank, they're earning well, but they hate their jobs. They're fearful all the time about money, and they have very fraught relationships around money. But one particular lady who I worked with, she was a chef, and she told me, Kim, money isn't real. But the reason she didn't think money was real, because although she had a great business, and she still does, whenever she got into cash flow problems, her mum would just give her money. And so using the bank of mum made her feel that everything was fine when it wasn't. And she didn't actually realize that her relationship with money was so unbalanced. So in our modern day and age, we value people who go out there and earn millions and billions. You know, we applaud all the footballers who are earning, I don't know, 100,000 a week, or it might even be more than that. And we have a real culture where I know I've been working in companies where they just never stop. They're just on to the next project, the next job, the next client. And so there's a real culture of never, ever being satisfied about money. So I wanted to move on to talk about the power of your beliefs. And this is something that some of you might have heard about, but when I started to delve into the power of beliefs, it was the first time that I recognized how important our beliefs, both our conscious and subconscious beliefs, are, specifically with regard to our money. So another person who is doing amazing development work, self-development work in America, is someone called Tony Robbins, who you might have heard about. But this is a great quote from him. He says, "What is a belief? It's a feeling of certainty about what something means." I'm just going to say, so it's a feeling of certainty. It's not a fact. Beliefs create the maps that guide us towards our goals and give us the power to take action. Often we are unconscious about what we believe and how those beliefs affect our actions. And this is a very important thing, because it's often our unconscious beliefs that drive us on the money side. So he said our limiting beliefs can cause us to miss out on the things that we want most, and our empowering beliefs can drive us towards the life we want. And the more that I do this work, both the coaching and with the course, the more I see that this is true. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is just to start listening to what you're saying, listening to what you're thinking, because being aware of what you are saying and what you are saying to yourself and what you're saying to other people is the start to understanding where you have those subconscious blocks. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the neuroscience behind beliefs in a few slides. But just to say that a great quote from Muhammad Ali, the boxer, it's the repetition of affirmations that lead to a belief. And once that belief becomes a conviction, then things begin to happen. So a lot of my work I do is around creating affirmations. So when we have something that is repeated to us again and again and again, it might be something that happens, it might be something our parents tell us, it might be something that we experience in our job or in our relationship again and again and again. It actually forms a neural bundle. I'll talk about that in a bit. And what happens is then our brain then automates those affirmations, those beliefs, and those things start to run our life. So a little bit more about why this is important. I'm sure most of us have heard of the placebo effect. So for those of us who haven't, the placebo effect is when a pharmaceutical company brings out a new drug. They trial it on a group of people, but then there's also another group of people who get a sugar pill. And what they do is they don't tell the groups which one gets the drug and which one gets the sugar pill. And what is absolutely remarkable, and that's why it's called the placebo effect, is that often the people who don't get the drug have similar reactions to the people who do get the drug. And this feeds very nicely onto my next slide. And for those of you in the UK, you will see in the middle Steph McGovern from she's on telly on I think it's BBC at the moment on Steph's Packed Lunch. The program was with her and Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall, and it was called Easy Ways to Live Well. And the people that they are standing with are the staff from the Gordale Garden Centre. So what they did was they went in and they did something called an open label placebo with all these, with the staff. And this was to do with painkillers. So what they first did was they measured the amount of painkillers the staff were taking a week. And be prepared to be shocked. So these guys were taking 249 over-the-counter painkillers every week. And that shocked me when I heard that. So what they did was they gave each of the members of the staff a bottle of sugar pills, and they told them to take them twice a day. Now, the reason it's called open label placebo is because the people knew that they were taking sugar pills. So what they did was they told them to take them for 8 weeks, and then they measured how many over-the-counter painkillers the staff were taking. Drum roll. And this amazes me every time I tell it. So 8 weeks later, the staff were only taking 28 a week. Now, you might say to me, I don't understand. But what we are taught from when we are little children is that taking a pill will help us to feel better. And this is the power of the subconscious. So they consciously knew that they were taking the sugar pills, but their conscious had a very strongly wired belief that when they took a pill, it would make them feel better. And I think that there are a number of different examples of this, but I think this example shows really, really well the power of our subconscious mind. Okay, so I'm going to move on to money blocks. What is a money block? So for me, a money block is a negative belief or beliefs that prevent you from being the best you can be. And they really do reduce your opportunities for financial growth and personal development. So what I want to say here is that we all have a unique experience, and our experience is super, super important. And so just to be aware that we're not all in the same boat, and that each of us has our own money journey. So A little bit on the neuroscience of how money blocks are created. It's a very simplified version. So basically, as we go about our day, our brain receives information from our eyes, our nose, our mouth, our ears, our fingers. And this information is stored in the brain in the form of neural pathways. So you might have seen what a neuron looks like, but our brain forms neural pathways, and these can be big bundles of neurons. And these store, amongst other things, our memories. So what our brain does, it attaches emotions to these memories. Some are positive and some are negative, depending on our experience. So a money block is the attachment of negative emotions to money memories based on our unique experience, which is what I was talking about in the last slide. So here are some limiting money beliefs, and I want you to take a look at these sayings. So I'm rubbish with money. I'm not getting anywhere. Money doesn't grow on trees. That was one that my mum used to say over and over again. Life is all work and no play. That's just a waste of money. I can't make money doing the work I love. I'm not good enough. This is another real common one. I don't deserve money. That's also another common one. You have to work really hard to make money. And that's also, we've been brought up to believe that no matter how much money I make, I never seem to have enough. I'm rubbish with money. Some people go around their whole life thinking that. And this is another place for you just to have a bit of a think about what were you taught or told by your parents growing up, or what did you hear from, I don't know, your brothers or sisters or aunts or uncles? And what I would say is if something pops into your mind, just write it down along with that emotion about the money. But if nothing pops up, don't worry about it. Part of what I'm doing in this first session is just to get you starting to think about, on the conscious and the subconscious level, to think about these limiting money beliefs. So where do we get these money beliefs? So a lot of the work that I do with my coaching clients is around childhood, and I'm going to talk a little bit about childhood in a few slides' time. But often because our brains are quite well developed when we're young, we are really impacted on a deep subconscious level by what happens to us when we're children. And often we then take on the beliefs of our family or the people around us. And this can be a start for you if you're struggling with money, and you know that you witnessed your mom or your dad go through a tough time. That would be the first place I would say to start thinking about and investigating, because you'll be able to really look at what sort of emotions and beliefs were apparent in the past. But also it's from, and I'm going to talk about this in a little while, it's also from what our parents tell us when we're teenagers, what their whole relationship with money really has an impact on us. It's the things they say to each other, to themselves, the way they talk about money. This can really impact us. But then obviously society, everything we see around us, our friends. So if all your friends are struggling to get jobs, if you suddenly get a job, it can be very triggering, because we're obviously tribal beings, and we want to fit in. And this is also a part of the money work. But the media has a big role to play in how we see work, how we see money, what we think is normal. And over COVID, there were a lot of adverts about money and about ways of being that were very, I think there were some that were quite based on women being at home and in the kitchen. I can't exactly remember exactly, but I know there was quite a backlash against some of those adverts on the telly. But just to be aware that when you are watching the news or the television in general, the things that you are hearing on a daily basis are going to impact you on a conscious and a subconscious level, and they're going to impact what you think is normal. And then, of course, there's your personal experience. So I'm going to relate this to me. So for many years, I did accounting contracts, and I would get the same kind of boss, same woman boss, and the same crappy jobs again and again and again and again. And after 10 years, I was just like, there's no other thing out there. But the problem was, the more that I had this pattern, and the more that I believed that this was the only way, then the less I was able to see that I had options. And I've just started to do the accounting work that I really enjoy, which is the accounting systems and procedures. And it's really not so much come because of my expertise. Yes, my expertise is a factor, but it's also because I've done a lot of work on healing that money trauma. And I'm really trying to work out what beliefs were keeping me stuck in those jobs, and working on doing my own money work. So this is one of the things that I do in my work, is to help you if you are stuck and you might be wanting to earn money from doing something else. You might want to be earning more money in the job you have. You might want to start something completely different. You might want to get out of debt. So wherever you are stuck in your life, your money story, your money past, your money beliefs will be impacting you. Okay, so just to talk a little bit about childhood. So when we are born, our brain is 25% of the adult-sized brain, but by the age of 3, our brain is 80% of adult size. So that means that we've got this massive computer when we're 3, but we don't know how to drive it. So often some of the massive money blocks we have are based on the decisions that we make from the age of 3. And often what we will do is we will make decisions using incomplete or incorrect logic and reasoning. So sometimes something happens with our mum or our dad, and at that point we decide that either we aren't good enough or that was our fault, and we either carry shame or guilt. And this is very important because this really does impact your self-worth. This impacts what you're willing to receive. And I'm doing a lot of work with coaching people at the moment to try and help them to open up, to get more space to receive. And when you have made a decision like this was my fault or I'm not good enough, you can see it's like putting a program into a computer, and that's what they run. And this is part of the problem with when you are trying to change on the conscious level. You are saying, I would like to get a better job. I'd like to make more money. I'd like to do something that I really love doing. But on the subconscious level, you might have a program going, I'm not good enough. It's all my fault. And so you start getting into conflict. But we also were told by our parents or by people around us, priests, teachers, that they will tell us what we should be thinking, what we should be doing. And just to say, the learned experience that are repeated the most will remain in your brain. So if you have a parent or someone around you telling you you're stupid, or you can never do that, or don't be silly, what that's going to do is it's going to create the neural bundle and that's going to really impact you in later life. So for anyone who's a parent, it's very important for children to learn about the importance of money, both practically and emotionally. But what I'm going to give you a plea. The association and the emotions involved must be positive. Try not to pass on your own negative beliefs. And I know this is very difficult for parents, because in many ways we're not aware what we're doing. But just to give you a quick story, I have some friends who have 2 kids, and they went out to buy the one child a pair of trainers, and they came back, and the child was like super excited and showing everyone. And then one of the parents said, "You're not going to believe how expensive that was." And we were there at the time, and you could literally see that child go from being excited and joyful to feeling bad, to feeling guilty. Now, my friends aren't even aware that they're doing that. So I'm just going to say to you, just the more you can be aware of what you are saying, how you are acting, the more you are going to be able to impact everybody positively. Because at the end of the day, guys, it is a choice. And the more that you can catch yourself saying things, if you do catch yourself, what I would say is just do 3 deep breaths and before you say anything, and that will really help you to interrupt that cycle. Okay, so I said to you that our relationship with money impacts every area of our life. And when we become adults, everything revolves around money. So we obviously have to get jobs to, unless we're lucky enough to have money, we have to get jobs to pay the bills, to buy a house, to save, to go on holidays, to save for our pension. So when we're children, we might have disposable income, but once we become adults and get families, we have a lot more financial responsibilities. I know when I first got over to England, I was earning £10 an hour, but my rent and my costs weren't that high. So I felt like I was a bloody millionaire at that point. And I went over to, had disposable income to go to South America. I went to Europe. I could buy clothes. And now that I have a family and I'm the sole earner at the moment, we don't have a lot of disposable income. And I know I'm not alone in that. I've spoken to quite a few people who are in a similar situation. And so this can be quite stressful. Obviously, it impacts our every area of our life. I've talked about the way we think, the way we talk, our relationships. So obviously it doesn't just impact our personal relationships, although money is one of the biggest causes of divorce. It impacts our work relationships. So it impacts how confident we feel to ask for a raise, how resentful we feel if people are getting more money than us, if we know they are, or doing less work. It obviously impacts us if we are business owners, if we're trying to get more clients, or obviously if we are looking to find work that is more fulfilling. And it's obviously this impacts us emotionally, a lot of worry, a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety about maybe the past and the future. And my dad, who's 80, is now having to deal with things like thinking about forward planning for when he passes. And obviously that brings up a whole lot of issues within families, what they're going to get, whether the will is going to be split out between the children. So suffice to say that when we become adults, everything revolves around money. And obviously, when we don't have a good relationship with money, it does not just impact the way we think, it impacts the way we feel. So this can impact our sleep, this can impact how we eat, this can impact our stress levels, our immunity. It impacts, like I said, our self-talk. It impacts the way we talk to others. So this relationship with money really does impact every area of your life. And I wanted to just talk about money trauma, because we're often aware of if we have an accident or our children fall off a bike. Obviously, that's physical trauma, and we go to hospital, or we patch up our child's knee if they're bleeding. But I was speaking to one of my business contacts the other day, and he said to me, if you have trauma, you've just got to carry on and keep going. And what I have found is that money trauma is something that is very blocking, and that it's something you need to deal with. What is money trauma? So money trauma is losing your job, divorce, bankruptcy, illness, moving house, losing a business, a recession, COVID. And so when an animal has a trauma or gets hurt, what they will often do is go and lie under a bush or do something, give themselves time to repair. And what happens to us is when we go through money trauma, it obviously impacts our beliefs. It impacts what we say to ourselves. It impacts how we show up in the world. And it also impacts what we think we can get. So it's like me with the accounting contracts. Some of those were very traumatic experiences. But also, guys, there's something called vicarious trauma, which happens when we see other people struggle. And if you have witnessed your parents going through a financial trauma, you will often have that vicarious trauma. A good example of this is over COVID. Obviously, we saw a lot of people get into difficulty, and that was very, very stressful for us. So just to be aware that you might have trauma from what you've experienced, but you also might have trauma from what you've witnessed other people experience. So a good example of how trauma can impact us is I was in a coaching group with a lady who every 7 years, she lost everything. And she didn't know why. She would build up businesses, she would have houses and savings, and then literally on the 7-year mark it would all disappear or go wrong. And during our time in the group, we did a lot of deep work, and she recognized that when she was 7, her dad walked out on the family, and as a result they lost their house and went bankrupt. And this trauma was something that she'd never dealt with. It was obviously something that her brain was comfortable with. So our brain can automate patterns, and sometimes it automates things that are not comfortable. But because that's what she experienced at a very, very early age, she had a pattern running every 7 years, and she never dealt with that trauma. And it was absolutely amazing that once she recognized that is where the pattern had started, she was able to go back and look at that trauma and start to change things for herself. So that just shows you the power that trauma has or can have on our lives. So another very interesting thing is I've always thought that if I won the lottery, then everything would all be sorted. And when I started to do the money work, I quickly recognized that this was not the case. So the Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards stated that nearly a third of lottery winners declare bankruptcy meaning that they were worse off than before they became rich. And there's a very good reason for this, because we have been taught that we have to work really hard for our money. And if we have limiting money beliefs, when we are suddenly get a large amount of money, this can be very triggering, both on emotionally and mentally. But also, if we don't have good habits in place, then this can really impact how we manage the money. So what I'm going to say to you is definitely keep going in for the lottery. I do. But just start to work on your relationship with money, both your money mindset and your money habits, so that when you win your millions, you're in a place that you can deal with it. Okay, so guys, why do we deal with money blocks? Well, I talked a lot about money blocks, but number one, we want to reduce stress, both mental, emotional, and physical stress. Obviously, money is a great cause of mental health problems. And one of the things that I've seen is that when people have suppressed emotions, and sometimes we do when we go through a traumatic experience, rather than dealing with the emotion, we suppress it. Once we start to deal with those emotions and allow them to move, one of the amazing side effects is more energy. Also, what happens is that when we start to deal with the trauma, when we clear and let go of the past, it gives us a lot more space. And what I've seen with my work is that the magic starts to happen. Then we get new people and new opportunities coming along, maybe we didn't see before, or we just had too much else in the space, so we couldn't attract it. But also often when we have money blocks, we have a lot of emotional pain, either guilt, shame, blame, anger. And when we start to deal with the trauma, we start to deal with that emotional pain. And when we get that emotional freedom, that really allows us to align both our mind and our heart. And that really can create an aligned mind. I talk about this when your brain starts to fire cohesively, it can supercharge your creative thinking. And that is what we really are aiming towards. Obviously, improved relationships, not only with ourselves, which is really, really important, but with those around us. I've just talked about the creativity, but also increased peace and happiness. And when we are trying to change our life, when we are doing things from a state of anger or fear, it's a lot more difficult than from a state of peace and happiness. So my mum had cancer. So a lot of what I do is to try and help people to be more healthy. And this is part of the money work. So we have a mind-body connection. And I love this quote from Deepak Chopra. It says, every negative belief weakens the partnership between body and mind. So what you will find is the more you do your money work, it's not just going to impact you mentally, it will help you physically as well. Okay, so going on to how we start removing our money blocks. There are a number of things I put down here, and I'll talk you through them. So I'm going to talk you through money mindfulness, money mindset, get practical, the healing journey, and prosperity practices. So money mindfulness is one of the key tools that I teach, which is becoming aware of your current money situation in a non-judgmental way. What is in the past has gone and can't be changed, and the future is unwritten. Now, this goes into the same principles as mindfulness. What you will find with money is a lot of the time you will be in the past, reliving those old money traumas, and the rest of the time you'll be in the future, fearing that the past will happen. The more we can bring ourselves back into the present, that is our point of power, the more that we can change our patterns and change the future. Money mindset. So I've talked to you a little bit about unearthing your money blocks, and I'm going to give you a few tools in a few slides time to start doing that. The biggest thing you can start to do is to start listening to what you are thinking, what you are saying, and looking at your actions. And this is going to start to give you clues as to where your blocks are. Sometimes these can be a blind spot. And if they are, and I will say this with the healing journey, do go and get some help, whether it's with a counselor, whether you come and work with me, because the minute you can start to be aware of your patterns is the minute you can start to do something about them. Get practical, and very important, your money habits. So I'd encourage you to spend a regular time every week, every day, go into your bank account and see the money in there. Have a think about a budget, track your spending, get clear on your money situation. Building your money habits is very important because it'll give you the level of control that you need, and it will help you if you're in debt or if you're in a difficult money situation. And it's part of the work that is really important. The healing journey, which is all about going back and healing that money trauma, healing those childhood experiences. That's also something that's really important. And what I've said is that it creates the space for you to change your life. It helps you become aware of those subconscious patterns. Sometimes this is something that you do need to get help with. And once again, I would encourage you, it is worth it. I'm telling you now, it's worth spending the time and spending the money to get the help, just getting started, because this can be absolutely life-changing. But just to say here, this is not something you do in the short term. Your money journey is something that you're going to be doing your whole life. So if you can just get some help with this, it can really help you to have huge transformation. So I'm going to talk to you about something called neuroplasticity, which is rewiring the brain. And this is absolutely amazing because, guys, while we can't remove our neural pathways, so those beliefs that I've told you about, those neurons in our brain, we can create new ones. So which, when we reinforce what we're saying, what we believe, it overrides those old neural pathways. What literally happens when we do that is those neural bundles literally get smaller and smaller and smaller and finally disappear. So we actually create new pathways in our brain. The exciting thing is by changing our experience, we can change the emotion associated with the belief, and we can change the belief. So we literally can change our brain. So guys, some of the tools that I use both in the course and in my coaching are quite untraditional money tools. One of my favorites is emotional freedom technique, which helps you to rewire the brain and to get rid of those negative emotions associated with beliefs. So it really helps to shrink those neural bundles. Another practice that I use is something called Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian practice of forgiveness and reconciliation. Very simple tool, as is the emotional freedom technique, but a very, very powerful tool in helping you to let go of the past and change your energy around situations. I use a lot of visualizations as well, just to help to rewire the brain. Affirmations is something that I've used more in the past year, which is a very super powerful way of rewiring your brain. Breathing, angels and spirit guides. I use a lot of vision boarding, and it's to help our brain, something called the reticular activating part of our brain, to tell it what we want. We're impacting the subconscious. And journaling, I will talk about in a bit. So as you can see, the healing tools I use are not your traditional money management tools. So something else that I talk about is prosperity practices. These are little rituals or habits that you can do which really do impact the way you go about in the world. And they are very useful in telling your subconscious what you want. Attitude of gratitude, I talk about this a lot in the course. Affirmations, I make all the money I need with ease, grace and joy, very, very powerful. Take small positive actions to prove your positive beliefs to your subconscious. So something as simple as looking at your bank balance every day will tell your subconscious that you're serious about improving your money situation. Visualize the money you want with feeling and belief. Not always easy to do, but that's why I use tools like vision boarding. Calling in the good. So during the day, when you have little positive situations, when you really focus on those and you feel into those, it puts you into rest and repair. And when you find that you have a lot of money worries or fears coming in, if you bring yourself back into the present, then you can, what I call course correct. You can often in the present we're safe, so you can tell yourself that you're okay. And this really is quite a powerful practice to do when you're struggling with money worry and fear. So guys, we can't go back and change the beginning, but we can start where we are and change the end. So, and this is really important, no matter what your financial situation, no matter how much debt you have, no matter how much you love or hate your job, or maybe you want to increase your business, we start from here. Okay, a couple of things that you can do to start this work. Start a journal. It's building that awareness muscle. So what I would say is these are the things I would start to look at. Keeping track. I'd maybe have a little, I have a little box which has these things, these markers in the box. So keeping track, I just go yes and no. That's of whether I'm looking at my bank every day. Money wins, that's things like you get gifts, you might get given money, you might get a promotion, you might get a new client. I also say that compliments are money wins because they help our self-worth. Money challenges, we all know what those are. Cost of living going up, not getting in enough income, tax. Self-care is a really important one because the way we feel and our relationship with ourselves really impacts how brave we feel and the risks we take and how we portray ourselves to the world. And also just write down what you're thinking about money, and that will start to help you to understand your thoughts, your story. I always write down opportunities. It's to get my brain thinking about creatively, and just overview of the day and an affirmation. So you can use this or just start to write down your thoughts around your financial situation. Another thing you can do to immediately start rewiring your brain is something which I like to call my little book of positive affirmations. If you get a flip book and you write down things that you would like to believe, like money is flowing into my life with ease and grace, I've got this, my debt is going down every day, I'm working on finding the job of my dreams. If you flip through these every day, what it's going to do is it's going to help you to feel better, and it's going to help to start to rewire those into your brain. So that's something you can start to do as well. Some recommended reads for you. So I've told you that I am passionate about emotional freedom technique, and the modern guru of that is a gentleman called Nick Ortner. There's another lady who's doing a lot of work around tapping and money called Margaret Lynch, a wonderful lady who is doing a lot of work around money and spirituality, a lady called Tosha Silver. Gabby Bernstein, I reference a lot in my course. She does a lot of work around manifesting. Bruce Lipton, talks a lot about, he's written a book called The Biology of Belief. He was a pharmacist, and he talks about how our beliefs impact our body. Norman Vincent Peale, this is an oldie, The Power of Positive Thinking, but it's a really good read. And also Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, also another oldie, but also something worth reading. Okay, so I've given you a lot of information. And guys, if any of this resonates with you and you're thinking, holy moly, that's me, then you might want to think about doing some more work on this yourself, or come and do some work with me. I work with some people on a weekly basis or a 2-weekly basis. I also do a 3-month money goal setting coaching, which is my more affordable option. So obviously people are paying once a month. And I then have this 8-session online course, which I'm guessing you might be interested in. And that goes into a lot more detail about how you can uncover these money blocks, how you can get clear on what you want, how you can take control of your money, how you can deal with your money trauma, and move forward to have the life you want. So just a quote from one of my coaching clients. She said, the work that I'm doing with Kim has helped me to get into my own zone of genius, where there is complete freedom, flow, and ease, with no blocks, allowing me to create my best work, and where miracles can actually happen. I'm now working on being in that amazing space for longer and more often. And once we are, we really have worked on our relationship with money, we can get into this genius zone a lot more quickly. So guys, thanks so much for watching, and I hope this has been really, really useful. If you want to find out more about my work, my website is on here, and I look forward to meeting you at some point. Take care. Bye.